All right, let's say that you've been named as a beneficiary or a party to a trust, or maybe you haven't been named, and this was, your mom's trust or something like that, and you want to challenge the trust. You see that for whatever reason, it's not done properly, or you want to challenge it. Can you? So, can you challenge a trust? And the short answer is yes, right? Now, there are some rules as to whether or not you have what we call standing, meaning, are you just a random person trying to challenge this trust? And even if you were successful, you still wouldn't get anything. You probably don't have the rights to challenge it. So there could be, depending on which state you're in, there could be some barriers to enter first before you could actually even bring the lawsuit. But let's say that, yeah, you are a rightful beneficiary, you're a rightful heir, and you have standing to challenge the trust. You can do it. Now, and it's very similar to a will. Requirements are very similar if you wanted to challenge a will. Typically, when it comes to challenging the will, two of the most common things are number one is undue influence, and number two is lack of capacity. So undue influence might be a situation where somebody, let's say like a caretaker, because I see this, someone gets really close to the father and is living with the father, is the in-home caretaker, and the father, all of a sudden just decides he wants to give everything to this caretaker, and he wants to, exclude his kids, even though he was really close with his kids at the time, and he decides to get rid of them. Well, he can definitely he could do that, but if this caretaker has exerted his or her will over the person, then you might be able to challenge it by saying what's called undue influence, which is basically saying, look, this person took advantage of our father. And so that's one possible way to challenge it. The second is lack of capacity, which is kind of what that sounds. They don't have them like that, what that sounds. They don't have the mental capacity. Typically, they're suffering from Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, something where they just don't have the mental capacity to make any changes, or to maybe even create that will. And that's where you see people taking advantage of people. It's very, very sad to watch. And so those are typically the two ways that they might be challenged. There might be other, maybe the trust was not signed and executed properly, something along those lines. But those are typically two of the most common challenges that we're going to see. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is a lot of trusts, just like a lot of wills, have in there what's called a no contest provision. A no contest provision. And what that says is, it says, look, if you're a beneficiary and you challenge my trust and you lose, if I had left you anything in that trust, now you don't get anything. So if, dad leaves me $100,000 and I think I'm supposed to get $500,000 for whatever reason, and so I file a lawsuit and I sue and I try to get that trust overturned, and I lose, well, I'm not getting anything now. I'm not getting that $100,000 because there was a no contest provision in there. And I think that's a great thing that we put that in almost all of ours, because you can probably tell that there's going to be somebody, or you will likely know if you have somebody in your family who is going to try to challenge it. And maybe you still want to leave them some money, but you don't want them to have the opportunity to try to go after more when your intention was just to leave them a certain sum. So yes, you can challenge a trust. Incapacity, undue influence are typically the two most common that we see. But if you are going to challenge it, make sure you pay attention to that no contest clause. It's kind of like gambling, because if you lose, you're going to end up with nothing.